Good morning, and welcome from the new office here. Well, really, all I did is I moved across the house about 20 feet. So I'm in my new office this morning, and we're going to be talking about content templates and how you can apply that to podcasting. In fact, my guest this morning is my good friend and colleague from many, many years, Jeff Herring, and I'm going to bring him on here pretty quickly. But more importantly, you know, if I had to tell you one of the most um, powerful lead generating activities I do, it is content marketing and my podcast. And so that's why my good buddy Jeff Herring has got a lot of interest in podcasting, and he is the master at creating templates for making it easy to create content. And of course, Gary Vaynerchuk calls podcasting pillar content, and then of course, pillar content can be repurposed in a whole lot of different ways. So, my mantra is go live, archive, and repurpose, or repurpose and archive. So we're getting my good friend David Kavanaugh here. David, all the way from the other side of the world, and my good buddy Dr. Bill. Nobody looking in your office right now. All right, so with all, I don't have a whole lot of other stuff that I want to talk about, so I'm going to just bring Jeff on right now. Jeff,
Mikey, how you doing, buddy? Hi, everybody.
Hey, I'm having a blast, and I want you to kind of tell me, you have an interest of getting your podcast going more and more, because you've been content marketing for years and years. I remember back when you were all excited about easing articles, and that was content marketing back then.
That's right.
Long time ago. And one of the challenges I had with that was that required writing and typing, and
that's one of the really great things about the main platform now, medium.com, is you can put text on there, but you can also put audio, you can put video. So you can actually upload your podcast to Medium and broadcast them out that way. So that excuse is gone, Mikey.
Yeah, I know. When it comes to getting in front of a keyboard or a legal pad with a pencil, I just,
speak it, baby. Just speak it.
I remember our good friend many years ago, Alex Mandozian, said the reason it's easier to speak content than it is to write is because the distance between the brain and the tongue is a lot shorter than the distance between the brain and the fingers.
I'm writing that one down.
You never heard that before?
No.
It takes longer for your brain to get to your fingers. And I think I've got a disconnect somewhere here in these arms.
So if we can find a way to sneeze content, we could get it even closer, huh?
Oh, well, yeah. Well, listen, why don't you said you had some things about content templates and chunks.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, the way, this blog, this podcast is about audio and video marketing, which once again is have a microphone, learn to record and edit.
Well, it all fits together because, see, you know this. I used to be known as the article guy, right? And then I took it up a few notches and turned it into content marketing. And because of that, and because most of my pillar content starts with articles, people still think that's all you can do it for. But what we're going to show you today, and with these chunk templates I'm going to show you, is that you can do this for text, for articles, blogs, columns. You can do this for podcasts, shows like we're doing right now, any kind of content, memes, infographics. And you know what? While you were talking a little while ago, I went ahead and brought up a slide so we can get fancy, and I'll show you a slide. How about that?
Okay. You should be able to bring that up yourself, right?
Yep. I'm all good.
All right.
I know about that StreamYard stuff.
Well, why don't you just, do I need to add? I guess I need to add it to the stream.
Yeah, you need to. There you go.
All right. Well, I'll tell you what.
Here, and that's over there. I had to get used to which way to point, because it's natural to point this way, but you got to point the other way.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
You need to make a course on that. All right.
Okay.
So what we're looking at here, folks, are something I call chunk templates. Now, I never intended to become the template guy back when I first created my first ones in 2005 that are still selling in different forms today. but people ate it up, and I found out I was good at it. And that's a little extra tip too. Find out what people need, what you're good at. That's a sweet spot for a lot of your stuff. So what we got here is a word cloud created 15 different chunk templates. And a chunk is just a chunk of information. Okay. It's easy to create content this way. Mike, long time ago, I made a woman cry on a teleseminar. Remember teleseminar days? Because she was convinced, she was wedded to the idea that she could not create content. She couldn't write articles. And I tried all my, old psychology tricks. It didn't work. And finally, the best trick of all is to give up, right? And so I just started asking her about her niche, and she could talk about that. And then I asked her what was one of the main mistakes people made in their niche. And she told me, and I said, well, what should those people do instead? And she told me, and I asked that 2 more times. And I said, hey, you just created a 3 mistakes piece of content. She started crying. I think they were good tears. And she's gone on to create lots of templates. So what you've got here are 15 of them, folks. And this is not an all-inclusive list, but think in terms of an article, a video, or as Mike was talking about, a podcast. Could you do a podcast on the 3 biggest mistakes around a topic in your niche? Could you do 3 or 5 universal laws around a topic in your niche? Could you do the same thing around myths, barriers, goals, guidelines, errors, tips, benefits? The correct answer is yes. I'd like to see some yeses over here in your chat, Mike, because yes, all y'all can do this. You and I might know that all y'all is plural for y'all, right? You don't have to come back on and answer that. I'm just playing. And so what this sets the groundwork for is all kinds of stuff. Okay, it sets the groundwork for creating any kind of content. Imagine taking these chunks and putting them on an infographic. Imagine taking these chunks and putting them on a meme. Okay, and let's take it even further. Let's say you came up with, 3 advanced tips for list building, and we could sexy up that title later. There's a product there. There's a course there. Each tip becomes its own module. Okay, so these chunk templates are powerful little boogers, whether you're going to do it in text, audio, video, because remember, one of my groundwork for this kind of stuff online, and I didn't even know it was happening, started in '94 when I started writing a relationship column for my counseling practice way back in the day. And, it was just a matter of showing people, demonstrating how I approached problems and how I solved problems in a unique way. And so that column came out in the newspaper every Monday. It's kind of kick to walk out to your driveway, pick up the paper, and you're on the front page of the health section. And the first thing I would do after reading it would be cut it out, take it to the office, and copy it. And one copy would go up on the bulletin board. The other copies would go in a file, and no client ever left my office without one of those in their hand. Okay, so that covers text, right? Online, it would be Medium, Facebook, LinkedIn, etc. So then once a week on Wednesdays, I would drive over to the #1 morning talk show in town, Soft Rock Talk Show, and they would interview me live for 3 minutes, and then we'd record one as if it was Friday. Okay, and it was based on that column that I did on Monday, and I brought over a copy in my hand and a copy for the 2 DJs, Steve and Sarah. And so that was 6 minutes of airtime on the #1 morning show in Tallahassee, Florida, the capital of Florida. And then once a month, I don't know if you knew this, Mike, but your guest today, your special guest today was once, ready for this? Okay, wait for it. The monthly Good Morning Family Therapist on NBC in Tallahassee. So, you don't have any, just a regular old slouch here. Okay. And so that got me on video once a month. So every week in the paper, twice a week on radio, once a month on TV. And I'd have friends that would say, yeah, I know you're getting paid for the column, Jeff, But do you get paid to get up that early and go do the radio show or go do the TV show? Nope. Why do you do it? I said, listen, how much do you think it would cost to have 6 minutes a week of advertising focused just on me and my business on the #1 soft rock morning show in town? And you could see the lights go on because I got that for free. Okay. That's called repurposing. That's when I discovered repurposing. Now, the reason those tips are important is all of those offline tips I just shared with you work 1,000 times better online. Okay. Text or newspaper becomes, well, first it was online newspapers, blogs, Medium, Facebook, all the socials. Okay. The radio becomes what you're big on, podcasts. The TV becomes what we're doing right now, video, live video, YouTube, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I swear to you, in the 15 years I've been doing this, these chunk templates that are relatively new are the best way I've ever come up with helping people create this stuff fast. Hey, look at that. Wayne Moss is with us, buddy. How about that? Okay, Mike, it's your turn to talk. Hey, Wayne. So did that make sense, buddy? Uh-oh, can't hear you. You're on mute, dude.
Yeah, I'm clicking a whole bunch of buttons here.
I know this audio guy that can really help you with those.
Yeah, well, he's a tough one to nail down. He's always got something distracting him. The whole thing that I see people when it comes to making content online, and I'm guilty of it, is the procrastination. Is like you never make it a priority. There's all
you know what the solution is to that?
Go ahead.
To procrastination, okay? And you'll be able to practice this before your head hits a pillow tonight, Mike, okay? The next time you're tempted to procrastinate, here's what I want you to do. Put it off.
Put off the procrastination?
Yeah, I'm serious. Procrastinate about procrastinating. If nothing else, it'll get you to laugh, which gets you into action, okay? Say, I'll procrastinate later and I'll get this done now.
Well, when you told me years ago to start building content, writing articles,
yep,
I just never did it.
Nope.
Because I don't like writing. I have never liked writing. I hated term papers in college and high school. I hated the thought of, and of course, we didn't have word processors back then. I mean,
Mike, I didn't finish my PhD in counseling, psychology, marriage, and family therapy because my professors told me I couldn't write, and I believed them.
Man.
And then I started writing this column, and about 3 years after I started online, Dr. Mary Hicks, one of those professors, signed up for one of my content creation workshops, and that was a pretty happy day.
Well,
but listen to this. This just came in this morning over on Facebook from Tim Gillette.
Do you want me to share? You need to share your screen?
I can. I can read it or share it. Hey, you're the audio guy. I'll read it, okay?
Okay, you read it.
So I was asking people, how many of y'all are content creators? Okay, there we go. We'll do both. All right. And so Tim said, I am, and you are the reason. Back in 2010, you were speaking at a webinar series that got me to thinking I could do that. Created a blog, then a podcast. There you go, Mikey. Then a live stream show. Now, 11 years later, getting started with what you said. I am a international speaker, award-winning blogger, 5-time #1 best-selling author. So you might not remember me. I do, Tim, but thanks. So you were welcome, man. You did the work. And so that's my motivation because I don't always feel like creating content. My motivation is those results, helping those people, and also the profit from it. And we're going to talk about that in just a second. Tom, your question is you must have gone to Segway school because that's a great question. Because the next thing we're going to talk about is simple content profit funnels. Okay. So you want to dive in there, Mike?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay.
Tell me how you, because the thing that I wanted to layer on top of all that you've said so far is that, I was a victim of procrastination. I hated writing so much that even though I knew it was good, I knew people that were successful because the purpose of creating content is to get found on the internet. That getting found, your resource box that you used to teach in your articles was a way to get links back to your business.
We call it call to action now.
Yeah. And so, but I was always the guy that said, okay, I'm not going to sell online with text. I'm going to sell online with either audio. We used to do just audio.
And that's fine. That's perfectly fine. Because part of your solution, you know this, okay? Speak your content.
Well, and then
get it transcribed.
I used to build web pages that were just, a picture and an audio button.
Yeah, I know.
And that worked for many years. And then 15 years ago, online video, streaming video became a reality. And we started selling we created the video sales letter, VSL. And we were creating content to sell, but we weren't creating content to generate relationships, to generate traffic to our websites. I wasn't doing any of that thing. And in the process of working with my partner, Hal Coleman, in the podcast world, he was technically incapable of making a podcast technically happen.
That I totally understand that. I know that.
And so I said, okay, if you'll refer business to me, I'll do the technical side, and all you got to do is show up and we'll just create content. And I said it's all about the consistency. And we've been doing the Pest Control Podcast for almost 4 years now.
That's such a fun name, Pest Control Podcast.
Yeah, well, it's Pest Control Marketing Podcast,
and
in 4 years' time, it has created probably $1 million between the two of us in business.
Not too shabby.
Yeah, because of the lead generator, and mostly for Hal, because I was doing other things and he was doing his coaching programs. But between the two, all the different things that I bring to the internet marketing world was created from the fact that we did the podcast. And it's interesting to me that, and this brings it back to audio and video, is the podcast that we've been doing for 4 years is the number one. Every time we talk to somebody that contacts us and commits to spending money with us, is the reason that they say they are convinced and that they want to do business. They said, I have been listening to your podcast and I feel like I know you, and you keep, in every podcast we remind people how to get in touch with us. We tell them our phone numbers, we give them out our websites, we give out testimonials, we run commercials. In other words, we're doing about 25% of the content is self-promotion. And if we had to say 95% of the leads that we get are all people that they didn't at first say they want to do business with. They didn't find us from a click and then automatically spend money. They spent time going, well, let me investigate these. Let me see who these guys are. Let me see if they're worth their salt.
Well, let's talk about how to create that for folks. What do you say?
Okay. And we got, and I've seen these questions. Michael's got a good question here. We'll get to these questions in a minute. We will not leave without the question. But anyway, all I'm saying is, because I could do a podcast a lot easier than I could write, we were creating that content that build the relationships, and then those relationships turned into business. And then I'm sitting here looking at myself. I've built a reputation as the audio guy for many, many years, yet I'm not even doing a podcast for myself. So that's why I do these shows.
It was time to start
and one of the things that I'll tell you is I'm loving StreamYard, because StreamYard makes making the podcast, the audio file that we download is usable for the podcast. So anyway,
absolutely. So part of the principle and strategy there is, folks, create it in whichever form is most comfortable to you. Write that down. Create it in whatever form is most comfortable to you, because from there you can repurpose it into anything. Okay, I take my articles and repurpose it into audios, videos. I had a person like recently on a webinar say, wasn't this webinar topic an article? I went, yep. And then he said, can you do that? And I said, yep. And then he said, will you teach me? And I said, yep. So there you go. Now, Tom, when I talk about funnels, I'm not talking about these huge, long things with arrows and boxes, and it looks like, the the blueprint for the Death Star or something. I'm talking about 2 or 3 steps. Okay. And I'm going to start with the simplest one. Okay. If you haven't heard and are not using a website named medium.com, you need to. Okay. You can put text there, audio and video. All right. And you join their partner program, which is free to join. Okay. You will get paid for your content. Content you ought to be putting out there anyway to promote your business and get found. You will get paid for it. Okay. And they pay it you based on the amount of time they spend on any piece of content. So Mike, one of the things I did, for an example, last Thursday, did a 75-minute webinar, had it transcribed. I uploaded it to YouTube as well. Okay. And so my most recent piece of content on Medium that you guys can go look at it, contentbyjeff.com, is that three secrets to profitable content creation. Okay. And it starts off with the transcript. And you're thinking, well, can you really put a transcript up? Yeah. And what I do at the beginning of it is I put in parentheses, this is a slightly edited transcript from a live webinar. So if it sounds a little bit different than a typical article, that's why. At the bottom, you can catch the video, and I hope you enjoy both. Then they read the transcript, okay? And then they, the YouTube video is at the bottom. You can just put in the YouTube link, and the video, not only can you do it, it plays right there on Medium, so gives you more time for people to be on there and gives you a view on YouTube, okay? So most of my articles on Medium are, 4 to 8 minutes. Okay. So you need to have a few of those to get the, the income coming in. This one, a transcribed teleseminar, a transcribed webinar and a video is 24 minutes long. Okay. So for every person that's reading that, I'm going to get paid by Medium once a month. I love the 7th of the month because they deposit money in my account. Okay. And so what happens is that becomes the simplest content profit funnel. You create some content in any form you want, put it up on Medium. And the other thing you want to do there is get on publications like Illumination, which gets you a lot more traffic. And you begin to build a following and a list. You can have no email list at all and build it from there, okay? And build a following and eventually send them over to your world, okay? So that's the simplest one, okay? Now, the next simplest one is that same thing. Do that same thing. And at the end of the content, like the one I put up yesterday, there's a call to action. Okay. And that call to action can be to an opt-in page. It can be to a sign-up page. I consider that a form of profit. It can also be to a product. Okay. I know a lot of people that are making bank using Medium to sell their ebooks. Okay. And so those are 2 simple ones right there. And we can build out further steps, but I think that's enough for now.
All right, this is a good question. You answer it. Michael asks, what's the best way to transcribe audio or video files? And I'll tell you what I use, and you can tell us what you use.
Sounds good.
Go
ahead.
Me
first? Okay.
Yeah, you get to go first.
Okay.
You're the guest.
Cool. Oh, that's right. I forgot about that. If I really want to get it up quick, like I did this weekend and not have to make any kind of editing to it, I send it to rev.com. Okay. They charge $1.25 a minute. Okay. So I paid about $90 for that transcript. I'll make 1,000 times that, or at least 100 times that from doing it. And for those of you that have not been around a while, you got to understand, for Mike and I and Bill and other people that are on here that have been around a while. Hey, look at David Kavanaugh calling you a legend. David, we need to talk. I'll tell you some legendary things about Mike. Back in the day, transcripts were cost prohibitive. I mean, it was a couple $100s to transcribe a 75-minute teleseminar. And so all these new things like rev.com, TEMI.com, that'll transcribe for you are lifesavers. And I'll leave out the one I know you like, Mike.
Yeah, well, I mean,
That's utterly ridiculous, if I had to say.
yeah. Well, I like Otter.ai. I think it does about 95% correct. It's pretty easy to edit it on the site, and in fact, you can do I don't know how many hours a month, but you can do enough for your podcast for free. I have a professional account because it's part of a service that business that I'm doing. But you upload an audio MP3, or you can actually speak it. It does a pretty daggone good job of transcribing. When the reason I transcribe my podcasts is because I want text content. So it's kind of my articles. I mean, I'm going to transcribe what we're doing today, and I'll put a disclaimer to say, hey, this was transcribed by a robot. There's probably some typos in it. Please forgive me. But
Perfect. See, what that does is sets the frame. It sets the expectation.
Yeah. But what it is I get a lot of keywords. I get a lot of content that the search engines are going to want, and so it just really saves a lot of time. So anyway, that's what we use, Michael. All right.
One of the fun things about the internet is it's a totally random comment. We're doing this thing live, right? And I've got my phone next to me. Caleb, my son, he goes, in forensic, we just took a body language quiz for criminal psych, and there were 13 questions. I got 2 wrong. Yes.
Hey, this is what's good about having a live show. You got people doing show research for you while you're doing the show. So it's 600 minutes a month free on Otter. So anyway, I love Otter, but I used Rev. Rev is if you pay for the human being, it's going to be exactly correct.
Absolutely. Here's another funny story. Hey, good morning, Vicki, about grades. Caleb, we took him out to dinner at the end of middle school because he got 1 B in middle school. The rest were A's, right? So we're out celebrating, and John, my oldest son, and I think she was the fiance then. Now she's not only his wife, but mother of his first child. By the way, this is the first interview you've done with me when I'm an official grandfather like you. But anyway, we were out celebrating, and John was kind of rolling his eyes a little bit about, Caleb getting all A's. I said, what are you upset about, son? You did the same thing. You got 1 B in middle school. It was your highest grade, but you got 1 B in middle school. He didn't much like that. So cool. Tom uses Otter. It's great.
Well,
you use whatever works for you, folks. Just you do it.
Well, here's what I can tell you. If you've got content in your brain, you need to be getting it online and on a regular basis. You don't do it and forget it.
Can I quote you on that?
Yes, you can quote me on that. And I don't just preach it. I do it myself. I'm a huge fan of podcasting for a multitude of reasons. We may do a whole show in the future on the power of podcasting. Podcasting has search engines that only people who create real podcasts and submit them to those podcast search engines, Apple, Google, Spotify, now Amazon Audible, Amazon Music, all of these huge search engines. I call them search engines, but they're really what are called podcast aggregators. You can't play in that playground unless you create audio content. And then, of course, when you're doing auditory content, then you can bring in all the elements of radio, music, jingles, sound effects, having guests. I mean, it just, in other words, if I had a guest interview and I type it, I have to, write a paragraph and say your name to let people know it's a conversation. When you're doing a podcast, you just have 2 people talk with each other. So I'm a huge fan of getting people motivated, be a content marketer. One of the things, Jeff, I don't know what websites you want me to put up here about you, but I'm going to put these 2 up that I know are you. Folks, go to contentdoes.com or go to jeffherring.com. Between those 2 websites, you could probably learn a whole lot about Jeff, because here, let me tell you what Jeff is a master at.
Well, can I tell you the new one though? Before you
tell me the new one, and we'll throw it up. What is that?
One? This is actually the main one now. So I didn't tell you that before. Simple. No, that's the other thing. Smartcontentincome.com. Smartcontentincome.com.
Okay, so that's where you want the world to know you. Well,
Yep.
then by
And right
then
up in that header, folks, you can get 21 fresh content ideas. Okay. And tell me that you came in through Mike, and I'll give him a couple quarters.
all right. Well, the main two things that I want to leave people with today. If you procrastinate about using audio and video to market, meaning, and here are the things: podcasting, YouTube videos, and live streaming. Those are the big three. And if you procrastinate because the technology is and the setup is a roadblock, that's what I at MikeStewart.live. That's what I help people do every day. If you struggle with the technology, but if you struggle with knowing what to say and you want to have an easy way, check out Jeff at smartcontentincome.com, because it's all about I keep telling people, and the SEO people in the world, I have to really tread lightly around them, because they don't want to say that the world of search engine optimization is in decline. But Google wants content. They don't want you to trick their search engine. And so the things that worked 15 years ago, meta tags, search engine spamming, and all the other things, all that stuff doesn't work anymore. The two things that work to help you get found are content marketing, which that's Jeff's world, and paid advertising. And that's why the things that I'm announcing here is that I'm working on something called ppcvideoads.com. I'll be building that in the next quarter. And then also virtualeventtemplate.com. These are two projects that I'm working on. And then this show is also brought to you by Domains You Control and .live Secrets.
I've heard those template things work.
And at the end of the day here, Jeff, as you like to tell me, do you have any final words before we close out on this show?
It's better than any last words. First of all, put Vicky up there. She's calling us the dynamic duo. I kind of like that. Are you going to be Robin or Batman? Anyway,
I'm Batman.
Something that you just mentioned. Okay, we could do a whole show on. I have never created content for Google, and yet I'm number one for a lot of keywords because I call it content wrapped SEO. Okay, content wrapped SEO. You do it that way, you're gonna write to people, but it's gonna show up on the search engines. Okay, and so folks, you can do this. Bill's asking a question about Clubhouse. I'm on it, Bill.
I'm on it too, and I'm trying to sit here and figure out, is it anything?
My thing, Bill and Tom. Bill and Mike, is that when a new thing comes out, I'll go and get my name over there just to reserve it. And I've been watching it, and I don't really know yet, but as we learn, we'll come back. Whatever content you create, though, you can do it over there. Back to what I was saying, you can do this. Okay, do it in whatever form works for you. Then you can repurpose it into all the other forms. Okay, and really, listen. Here's the thing: there's more people out there. Y'all look up here. This is important. Okay, there's more people out there waiting to hear from you, who can only hear from you than you can ever get to in your lifetime. So get going, go for it, make a difference, make a profit, design the life you want. It's not too shabby, right, Mike?
Right.
All right.
With all that being said, this is another episode of MikeStewart.live. Thanks, Jeff. I know you. I'd love to have you back again. Maybe we'll think of something else we can talk about. But you're always a great guest, and you're always a dear friend. So thanks for being here and sharing your wisdom.
Throw you back at you.
All right. MikeStewart.live. Audio and video marketing.